Today on the show we have Ben Eddy. Kyle helped out as well. Kyle was out visiting in Colorado, and we were able to record with Ben Eddy together. Most of you probably don't know this gentleman. He is a Brazilian Jiu Jitsu coach, fighter, etc. Interesting guy. And we had a great time chatting with him. The show kind of goes all over the place, but I think there's some really interesting and important things in this episode around movement, somatics, learning to be with your body, flow states, how psychedelics and cannabis can assist in that, and a lot more. Ben is in the school of Eddy Bravo, 10th Planet Jiu Jitsu. Eddy Bravo is a good friend with Joe Rogan, and I think that's how Ben kind of came on my radar. I think Ben was supporting the Denver decriminalization initiative really early in that project, and things just really moved on from there. So I guess that's all I really have to say on the intro here. If you want to support us, please leave us a review on iTunes or Facebook. Please just take 1 to 2 minutes to figure out how to do that. You just pop open iTunes or Facebook, search for Psychedelics Today, and the buttons for review should be just right there. So we would really appreciate that. And if you want to support us monetarily, we have a lot of different ways to do that, but the easiest might be a recurring $1 to $2 donation on your credit card through Patreon. That's patreon.com/psychedelics today. So without further ado, here is Psychedelics Today with Ben Eddy. Enjoy. Welcome back to Psychedelics Today, everybody. Today on the show, we have Ben Eddy. Ben Eddy is a black belt from Eddy Bravo's 10th Planet Jiu Jitsu system. We just found out Joe Rogan is also a black belt from Eddy Bravo's 10th Planet Jiu Jitsu system. So, Ben, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So I think I started sending you messages maybe a year ago when I found out you were tied into Eddy Bravo's world and had a couple things to say about psychedelics. So thanks for finally helping us out and getting on the show.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, we were messaging before trying to see if we could talk, but yeah, it took a little while, as it usually does. First you plant the seed, you know?
Absolutely. Yeah, so it's probably right when you started doing your touring. Because I remember you flying to Europe, and I was like, oh, shit. I don't think I'm going to be able to get him for a while. But
yes.
We made it work.
Yes, that happened, yeah.
So
True.
let's dig into a little bit about you. We just heard a little bit about you offline, but maybe just a bit of background about how you got into jiu-jitsu and psychedelics.
Yeah, two big topics, jiu-jitsu and psych. Well, I got into jiu-jitsu through I was just kind of like looking for a way to stay in shape, way to work out. I was in San Francisco. I was 20. I was kind of there for the tech scene, and I had grown up wrestling. I loved competing, and it kind of felt like that part of me was kind of gone after school. But I always kind of hoped that there was something physical I could kind of still compete in, something I could still push myself in physically, even though I saw business and tech and all of that as my kind of number one. And so, once I figured out jiu-jitsu was a thing, I was looking around San Francisco, and I figured out jiu-jitsu as a sport. I was like, damn, this is like exactly like wrestling. You get submissions, and people are doing this like long into their old age, and wow, there's competitions and there's a whole scene, and so yeah, it really lit me up when I found it. It's funny because I had watched like UFC and stuff, and I came up in wrestling, but I didn't connect the dots that jiu-jitsu was a sport that you could practice on its own, I guess, until I really saw it. So it didn't take over at first. Still tech and business was the main deal. But while I was in San Francisco there for like 6 years, it slowly kind of took over me. And then, yeah, I started, I remember, the big switch was, our main instructor of our team, Eddy Bravo. He was getting ready for this big rematch, with one of the Gracies, Hoyler. And like everybody was getting together for this. Like everybody was getting together in LA. Everybody was talking about it. Eddie was training super hard, and you could just feel that like there was just so much like energy around this. And so I was like, oh man, okay, I got to be down there for this. I got to be around when this happens, and I got to be around Eddie, like, getting ready for this and all the people and everything. And so I went down to LA for a month, and just to kind of be around and train and be around that scene until, Metamorphosis, until that event. And while I was there, that's where it really made the next kind of connections into that scene down in Lower San Diego. And Eddie ended up inviting me into the first EBI, which is kind of one of our bigger jiu-jitsu competitions. And then I ended up training with our best 10th Planet competitor, Gio Martinez. I trained with him leading up until EBI, up until that EBI. And so that's what kind of started my switch down to like lower Southern California from San Francisco. And that's really where my psychedelic started too, was in lower Southern California.
Didn't happen in the tech scene up in San Francisco.
It did not, actually. Back in the tech scene in San Francisco, I just dropping back, I was so I was talking about like how I got into jiu-jitsu there, and because these are two big different topics. How you start psychedelics and how you start jiu-jitsu. But yeah, as far as the psychedelics goes, I was still waiting, basically. I still enjoyed just meditation, and I knew I had this intuition. I kind of knew that, once I started playing with psychedelics, then it was going to be a different room. It was going to be a different door. It was going to be open. And so there was going to be a before psychedelics and an after. And so if I wanted to figure out what I could with meditation, having only known sober, then like this was the time. And that was a certain time that was, it was going to be forever gone afterwards. So, so I kind of used that. I kind of wanted to sit with that longer and kind of wait for some undetermined point where I figured, okay, now is the time. I really wanted to understand the difference. I really wanted to know when I took psychedelics, what they would be offering me, what I was feeling. I wasn't usually very impressed with how other people would explain it. So, and it seemed like I was getting what I needed through just regular sober life and meditation too. So I kind of stuck with that to start. And so yeah, I didn't start until Southern California just because of time. I was older at that point, and it felt like, okay, now's the right time. I'm around the right people. This is the right scene. Let's go ahead and jump in.
So it sounds like you were pretty conscious about that decision. Were you like reading or doing any research on like how, say, it would change you? It sounded like, you knew this would be a big change for you. And that's just interesting to be super conscious about that. I feel like, a lot of people just kind of take the dive and maybe they're not thinking about that.
Yeah. I think I got lucky because I noticed I had that chance to kind of be conscious about it. So I grew up religious, and that kind of kept me away from doing any drugs because I don't even like calling them that, like doing any substances or anything, because because of the choice for the religion. But once I kind of dropped the religion side of it at like 18, I really recognized, I was like, okay, you haven't been doing these because of the religion told you not to. Now you have a choice. So what are you going to do? Are you going to do them now, today, tomorrow, next week, this year? Like when you the world's open to you now, And but I really wanted, I was already a logical kind of a person. So I was really thinking about, I was like, I think the best approach probably is to wait still. I think I am on something here in the sense that I'm still figuring out if I just took them now, I don't know enough about life now to know the difference between the two, is what I kind of felt. And so yeah, I had that chance. I was like, okay, this is actually kind of a cool chance. I can be really conscious about it. And when I use it, and I can, use it as it's supposed to be used. And so, yeah, so I just decided to wait and then kind of use meditation first. And yeah, it really turned out to be the trick because, yeah, it really helped. I think it was the right choice.
That relationship to psychedelics sounds really interesting. I've not heard anybody make, I guess I don't know too many careful people. Maybe that's the better way to put it. So,
yeah. Usually you just kind of just drop in as a kid. I think that was the window. I think that's what let me have that, is because, if that's your personality, you're going to drop in as a kid. Then you're just going to go, you're just going to go right in. And I'm not devaluing that. I think that's a totally different experience that I'll never know or understand to have gone that through as a kid. But yeah, I think like I was that personality that would have totally done it, all grown up as a kid. But the religion side, the belief side kind of held me away from that. And then when I realized that, it was like, okay, yeah, but I still have this choice. And so, yeah, it gave me that window. It gave me that, like, that ability to kind of think. So I was like, okay, I made it through the kid stage, basically. I can grow up first, and then I can dive in. Like, there can be two versions,
Very mature approach.
Yeah, kind of.
For the younger listeners, like, meditate on that, though. I don't know enough about life yet.
I would really recommend it. Yeah. I think it definitely will. I think it definitely has offered me so much in being able to see the differences of the two sides, see what you can pull together, the values of both. Yeah, you got to have a baseline where ultimately we're always trying to bring all of this exploration back, right?
Good friend of mine started really young, probably like 14 or something, and I just found out the other day he hasn't stopped smoking pot on a daily basis since that age, and he's now like 30. He's gonna be like 34, and he finally just took his first break. I was like, wow, that's incredible. Now you know a lot about life from the high side.
Yeah,
but like, that's interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, so now he gets to start the other side of the coin, and the other way, like that's a real thing. And it's funny because I have that coin with my brother. Is that, my brother started smoking weed at like 12 and has never stopped since. He's a master grower out there in Oregon for Happy Cabbage Farms, and yeah, it's those two sides of the coin. And so I was able to see that too with my brother. I could see like his side as well. And the way it's not that far off, but it's just understanding the difference, Yeah.
Cool. So on the show in the past, we've had a few Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, or actually only one Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu guy who talked about competing while microdosing or training while microdosing, and how much higher performance he gets out of his body. Can you kind of like speak to like sports performance and psychedelics at all?
Yeah. So, so those are the two sides, right? It was going to change me on, I guess you could say. The two main sides was coming from San Francisco, this is pre-weed, pre-psychedelics, Ben. And then San Diego's, psychedelics, Ben, let's say. And so the changes, I would say, you have those two sides. You have the mental side, and then you have the jiu-jitsu side. And as far as jiu-jitsu goes, man, I felt like it opened me up so much, in a sense of like, before I was so logical. I was so like kind of planned, a directive. Like, I'm like, okay, I'm drilling down here to what is the best game? Like, what's the most efficient game? What is the most efficient approach? What is the right answer? What is just very analytical, very logical. There wasn't much flow. There wasn't much. I didn't have near as much feeling, and I started first with weed. And that just opened up like that side of the coin, I would say, is feeling and flow. And because you don't have control, you're kind of dropped in the stream with that more. And so I would say with jujitsu, with that, it really just opened me up to being more of a flow person, and kind of getting like lost in the waves and not having as much control. And not worrying about like, oh, there is no best way to play it. Like there's no like, you can't come to a logical analytical conclusion for this is how, like, you have to, this is a feeling game. This is a at the moment game. This is, I mean, it's, both sides are valuable, obviously, right? Strategy and being able to act in the moment. But it helped me. What it did for me was it filled out my side of acting in the moment and just like being like calm in chaos. I guess it really helped me. Like I opened up to music a lot more, and I was just way more flowy with my jiu-jitsu, and way more just way more just feeling and at the moment, and just it let me just kind of like find a whole new avenue with where I was going, and I was kind of feeling like I was out like kind of a platform. I was kind of at a plateau where I was running into these guys who just like seemed like they could just flow as well, in the sense that they were just like things came to them easy, and they found the answers in the moment. And like my main training partner at that time, well, the whole crew down there, but Gio, I'd say in particular, is one of those people where there's no strategy, there's no like lot, like there's no like, he's not setting out a plan. I mean, yeah, of course he has those elements, and he's very smart in that department, but he comes in and he just flows, and it's more natural person. And I felt like weed and all and that like just allowed me to tap into that a lot more and let go of my logic side, if I could have kind of explained it that way. Yeah,
that's cool. I'm
so
kind of making a correlation between like snowboarding, skiing. I live in a ski town, so that's kind of like my correlation. I don't do combat sports. I would love to if my body was okay for it, but I think going fast and flowing, you don't necessarily always have a plan. It's kind of like more like a jazz composition or freeform jazz than like a structured classical thing like you were getting at before, like a really specific plan. If he does this, then I'll do that.
Yeah, you kind of realize it's more of a dance, and that really helps because it is a dance. But yeah, so I would say, so I started with that, started mainly with weed, and that changed my game a lot. It really changed my jiu-jitsu, really opened me up. And that was a good, like 2 years before I started, with mushrooms. Mushrooms are just kind of the other side of the equation. I feel like they're just going to slow you down. They're going to take time completely away. They're going to make you notice everything. They're going to make you see everything, feel everything. So it's just the complete other side of the coin. For a while there, I couldn't actually use them with training, get like kind of comfortable to be able to use them with training. But as far as, microdosing, of course, you can use from the start because you just microdose, you're not supposed to actually feel. But as far as like an active dose in training, that took some time. But once I could get there, I do actually now take active doses and train as well. And that's extremely powerful. I mean, those rolls, you're gonna remember all of that. You're gonna feel it all. But it's slow and it's easy and it's gentle. As long as you're calm and easy, and then it's just, man, you're so present. You're so incredibly present. And kind of what they say about it being able to make an impact on you and change your neural pathways very quickly. It does really offer that while you're rolling. And so, yeah, I've been trying to experiment with that, but I definitely need to feel that out more. It definitely feels like it has that ability, though. It has that opportunity to make you learn a little bit quicker, because it's making more of an impact on you, because you're feeling it more, because you're more present.
Right.
You know.
And when you say active dose, what's your dose?
So if I'm going to be doing jiu-jitsu, then active, it'd be like 2 grams. Yeah. Yeah, I would say 1 gram gets me in. 2 grams will keep it going for a little while. And then, 3 grams and up is more like, this is going to be the experience. Now it's mainly about the mushroom and the experience. Yeah, 2 grams and below is like if I want to be able to do something else while I'm on it.
Yeah, that's a good rule of thumb.
Yeah, but people are very different. My brother will show me just like half a cap, and he'll be like, "Look, bro, this is all I need." So that's your own rule of thumb is. I think the easiest way to judge it is just have a small amount first, let it kind of come in, and then just nibble your way to where you want to be.
Right.
But
you can always take more. You can never take less. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Be the guy that has a psychological incident at the gym, but you never know. Maybe you do.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. No, you should be really. I mean, you need to be really comfortable. I'm really comfortable, so it's. And plus, I'm really comfortable in the jiu-jitsu environment too. So it's 2 extremely comfortable environments for me. And so it's only because of that it works very well.
So in Europe, are you seeing a trend culturally? So you're kind of touring and teaching Europe now, right?
Yeah.
Are you seeing any kind of psychedelic trends there that are different from San Diego?
I mean, I think it's just less, I mean, definitely. I mean, each area is so different, though. But in general, it's just kind of pocketed around like less. But some areas are pretty heavy, of course. Some areas are even more open, more free. Yeah, it's just pockets. It goes in streams and waves, like it really does.
Right. Yeah, I'm excited about the drug laws in Portugal on account of everything being decriminalized there in terms of drugs. Still not legal, just decriminalized. But I imagine that could create some really interesting subcultures or help culture them out.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like lights are starting to turn on everywhere. We just had Denver pass its decrim law, and so. Yeah, it's starting to come around. I feel like we can definitely see that the tide's turning for sure. It's hard for people to have the right understanding of what this can offer, because we're talking about perspectives here. So
I'm kind of interested in your perspectives on learning, or on, I guess, sports learning, like we were talking about before we started recording. So like you have to learn all this stuff. Like jiu-jitsu is knowledge heavy. People might not realize that, but do you think it helps accelerate learning when training?
Well, so I feel like that's the 2 sides of that coin, in the sense of so one side's like logic and knowledge and analytics, and let's figure out this problem in a very mental, analytical way, and then the other side is like, oh, it's all the same, man. It's just a dance. It's the same. And so, one is like getting it into your body, and the other is like being able to have a conversation about it, and so, yeah, you kind of play back and forth with those two. Well, I mean, you play back and forth with those two in both states. I play back and forth with those two just as much sober as I do any other state. All these are tools, they're all tools to where we're trying to get to. And with this case in jiu-jitsu, it's like, it's embodiment, in the sense that you got to be gotta hit it in the moment, and so that's part understanding, it's part logic, part knowledge, but it's also part acceptance, like right there when you got to actually do it, and so, man, jiu-jitsu just makes you have to be present and kind of bring everything that you have up to the forefront, right at the moment. And so it works on both sides well.
It's making me come back to Joe's comment about snowboarding. I snowboard too, and I remember one time I was up on the mountain looking down, using that like analytical, logical part of the mind of like mapping where I'm going to go, looking at my line and thinking, okay, this is the turn I'm going to take, this and that. But then also falling back into that feeling, being more in the moment. And when I'm there, actually feeling the snow and the board below me, feeling the mountain, feeling the little bumps. And so, yeah, it does seem like a dance between like trying to map out what you're going to do, learning your technique, understanding that from a more logical perspective, but then being in the moment and actually, you keep coming back to that, the word feeling, right?
Yes.
And I think that's really interesting because we chatted with a theologian a while ago, and he mentioned, there's so many different ways of knowing, but the West seems to disregard feeling as a way of knowing. And, I think for these flow states, feeling is a huge part of it, right?
Yes. I love that analogy. That's the same thing. You're on the mountaintop, you're looking out, you're looking across, you're seeing it, but then you got to drop in, and when you drop in, okay, now you're in it. Now you got to be present. But yes, like that.
Yeah, it's really cool. So, I'm kind of curious, like if you see, well, with the San Diego community, you're seeing a lot more there. And I think it's probably spreading as a result, more so in Southern California, maybe California in general.
Mm-hmm.
And I think people might not understand how popular Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is becoming. Like Eddy Bravo is like 15 years ago, people didn't really know about him. Now a lot of people know about Eddy Bravo. And like this whole kind of thing is really growing, and the ideology, the practices, all that kind of stuff, special commentary. I think that's really helping the psychedelic movement as a whole. But do you see it like continuing to grow at an interesting pace at all?
Yeah, which one, the jiu-jitsu or the psychedelic?
Perhaps both.
Yeah,
I like to throw two at once.
They're both huge. Yes, both. Okay, yeah, we'll keep these two topics, right? These are the two topics we're juggling. We're juggling jiu-jitsu and psychedelics. Okay. But yeah, they're both are incredibly huge. I think jiu-jitsu, people don't realize how big it is because it's so grassroots. It has no kind of like tech platforms or no central voice, but you go to any city, you go to any town, and you're always going to find a jiu-jitsu gym. Like I can go anywhere and I can find some jiu-jitsu academy. I can find some gym. I can find some gym practicing martial arts that at least looks sort of close to it. It's just, it's wrestling. It's in us. Grappling is in us from the start, especially if we're saying we came from monkeys. Then, jiu-jitsu is right at the root of us then, But yeah, so you can see these communities everywhere. They're just not that well. They don't have a connected voice, I guess you would say. So you don't hear them as often. But jiu-jitsu is huge. And as far as psychedelics go, I would just say that's really just sprinkled. That's just sprinkled everywhere. It just touches everything,
Are there people in the jiu-jitsu community actively using psychedelics for training? Like, is that a pretty popular thing, or is it not?
Well, I'd say definitely weed, but not. I would say mushrooms has still got some time to catch on. I think mushrooms in general is it takes a lot more than weed to be able to use. Right. So naturally, unless we're talking about microdosing, anyone can try out microdosing, at any point. That doesn't take any practice. But but yeah, the other side of it, then yeah. But definitely weed. Weed is especially popular in jiu-jitsu because it just naturally fits it very well. It's it's like it fits it for art and music and anything else. It gives a very similar flow, a very similar feel for jiu-jitsu because you're dropping into the one instrument that you're playing, and so weed is really good at letting you drop into making it feel like you're playing one thing, but you're feeling everything.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Let's see. Probably have to be careful talking about other people, so maybe let's not do that.
Yeah, like give us names.
Yeah, Eddy Bravo's private mushroom grow house. Just kidding. He probably has somebody for that. No, but that's interesting to think about. Yeah, psychedelics, like, and healing and embodiment. Like, Kyle just wrapped up this somatic psychology master's degree, which I think has some interesting correlation to jiu-jitsu around embodying, being in your body, and actually being human, being a primate. We saw that there was a number of folks in the veteran population jumping into jiu-jitsu to get embodied, and that really seemed to help with their symptoms of like PTSD or whatever else they might have brought back. Because you get a little abstracted. I'm curious if you have any kind of thoughts on like jiu-jitsu as like almost a therapeutic modality, or is it just like a rehumanizing, like recolonizing yourself?
No, yeah, that's what jiu-jitsu is most, is therapy. It's constant therapy. It's physical, personal therapy because you have a partner. The whole time you have a partner, and that whole time you're reliant on that partner for them not to hurt you, for you not to hurt them, for you two to get along, for when one of you taps to let go. This is a partner game. It's like applied yoga with a partner, and you need the same kind of calmness and the same kind of controlled breath and pace. It's not like wrestling in the sense, like, I think that's the biggest thing we need to push through more to give people a feeling of is like aggression doesn't win here. This is a much calmer sport. This is a sport with pace and timing. And it doesn't take strength. Like the strength, like, yeah, strength is cool. But it's just one of the variables, and like technique is king. Form is king. Form is the best. And so that's yoga from the start. Like form, like working on your form, that's all about balance and slowness. But it's just like it's applied, in the sense that now you've got a partner. They're trying to do it too. And so it's, you're dancing. And yeah, dancing is extremely therapeutic. This is just another form of dancing. One where we kind of grapple with each other and try to get the other one to tap out. But yeah, I think if people really slow down and they take it much easier, especially any age community can enjoy it. If you just slow down and you allow yourself to just kind of go with the flow and think of it more as partner yoga.
Reminds me a lot of I did a keto for a little bit, like kind of similar thing, like this dance and really non-violent type of way. But I know probably Brazilian jiu-jitsu is a little bit different.
No, yeah, they're all very similar, and they're all at their roots, they're going to be the same thing. Yeah, no, for sure. And just like we were talking with the snowboarding, being at the top of the mountain, everything's similar in that way. Any kind of sport. I think jiu-jitsu is unique, though, in the sense that it has the partner. And it has the partner physically. There's no ball in the way. There's no nothing in the way. It's just you and another person. And you two are going to figure it out, and you two are each the mountain, and you're also the river and the stream, and you're the tree to climb, and you two are the obstacle and you're also the way.
Can you tell us about the origins of jiu-jitsu for a minute? I'm sure you know a little bit about the history.
Yeah. You kind of, I'll fumble some parts here, I'm sure, but it comes, the origins, it's got to start. I was saying before, we were monkeys, right? So that's at least the start. But more recent, it came from Japan with their judo, and then it came over to Brazil, and that judo kind of mixed with Brazil's beaches and their vibe over there, and it found jiu-jitsu, and then it made its way up to America, and it found our beaches and our vibe, and it made its way to current jiu-jitsu, I think, in that way. Like it mixed with our wrestling and our catch wrestling, and also our open side as well. But it's just like this. It's just grappling with no strikes. So it's anything that's ever dealt with when a fight makes it to the ground, or when a fight makes it inside of range of a punch, or you have any kind of clinch. Do you have contact with this person? Are you touching them? Okay, then that's jiu-jitsu.
Right. So kind of like at the start, non-violent, with there being no strikes, though I'm sure you could. Yeah. I think that's the side of the discipline. I think we tried to figure everything out, right? We tried to figure out striking. We tried to figure out, long spears, javelins, bows. We've been playing with it all forever. But jiu-jitsu is the side of the equation where we're touching, and there's not going to be there's no fast, strike, we're not trying to hit, no percussion, this is a contact, clinching sport, so it's when you two are so close that there's no more room for percussion, no more room for strikes. And that's what you're learning is that part of the control, that part of this game, this fighting game we've been playing forever, this you versus me game. That's the jiu-jitsu side, is that side. So, yeah. Hearing you talk about it and imagining being on mushrooms is really wild. It's an exciting idea.
Man, yeah, Sunday open mats. Geez, it's 3 hours with just 60 people on the mats, and all you're doing for the whole 3 hours is you're just rolling. So the music's playing, and you got 8 minutes on the clock. You roll with that person for 8 minutes, and afterwards you slap hands, fist bump, hug, and move on to the next person, and you do that for 3 hours. And so it's just this long ride with different people and different dancing partners, and you learn acceptance the whole way through, and you make choices and you try things, and it's very interesting.
3 hour
nice.
Session sounds
it's very therapeutic.
Combining, I'm coming back to this idea of combining mushrooms with sports. What you said, being able to learn, I guess this is more of kind of like a hypothesis type thing. But I wonder how combining Paul Stament's microdosing, like the psilocybin, lion's mane, and niacin, with sports, jiu-jitsu, and, because we're creating new neurogenesis and creating new neural pathways, and how being in that state might actually make you learn a little bit different, and muscle memory. Maybe you find yourself doing something completely different from what you're used to doing, because maybe you're a little bit more rigid and logical, and actually kind of entering into that flow state. And now, you're learning a new way of being. It seems like a really interesting application, just for performance and just new ways of learning, right?
Yeah, I would really love to. I really need, because I'm traveling so much and things are really hectic. But I would really love to put more time in that area of be on a Paul Stamets approach, consistent microdoses, and see how that affects me, for sure. That would be nice to have some more time in that area. But ultimately though, you're just trying to. you're just trying to keep your page on your finger on the topic, you know? And so, yeah, it comes and goes. But yeah, sometimes you need to change the page. So I never get in a rhythm for too long. Like I don't think I would ever like stick to something forever. It all comes and goes in waves. So while I would like to try it and like, okay, let's try like the false downs for like, 6 months or something. It's not like I'm looking for something I'm trying to be on forever.
Right.
It's still going to just be another wave, in that sense. And we're trying to get somewhere, and where we're trying to get to is a certain level of like you were saying before, of embodiment, that's what we're really trying to get to, is a certain level of embodiment. and yeah, jiu-jitsu helps pull that out of you in such a visceral, real, in the moment way. You got to have it there. You're always having to embody. The game is on. Yeah. That's why people really like its honesty. When they start training jiu-jitsu and they start having that for a little while, that's what they really appreciate it for. Is they really appreciate its honesty.
Right. And you just speaking of that, makes me think about integration. You're saying I wouldn't want to stick with that regiment for 6 months. I need breaks or switch it up. But even just in terms of having a really big psychedelic experience and coming back and learning how to be in the body, right? How do we integrate that, learn how to move differently? And I don't know, I guess me being in more of a somatic field, I think about that a little bit more, of not always being out there in the mind, but how do you bring these lessons back and learn to be in the body? How can you show up and move and be able to engage the world differently? And it sounds like, I don't know, martial arts is part of kind of like somatic therapy in a sense. And I've always found it really interesting. I think more in that realm, they talk about Aikido, but, it is, how do you come back and be embodied and have some sort of application?
Yeah, integration. Yeah, that's definitely what we're looking for, is integration. But it's, so I think that can be your approach, in the sense that because you're kind of talking about going out and then being able to bring it back, right? And so I think that has something to say about your approach, in the sense that means you're staying somewhere solid typically, and then you're going out. You go really far out, and then you're trying to bring that really far out thing all the way back to the solid place, to the shoreline. Whereas if you're more commonly in the waves, then you're making it more yourself while you slowly swim to the shoreline. Maybe you can think about that. I guess that, and that's what I mean there. To say it more specifically is sometimes if you're experimenting more often, then you're more in the waves, right? More often. Whereas if you're just more sober all the time, and then you take one mushroom experience, then you're going to go way out, and then you're going to be trying to pull that back, and you're only going to be able to bring back so much, because you had a very solid, consistent line, and then you jumped way off, and then you came back to that very solid, consistent line.
I like that.
So it depends on how are you on a consistent line right now, or are you waving? But along that whole thing, whether you're on the line or whether you're waving, you're even when you're on when you're on the mushroom trip, you're still trying to embody,
right?
The whole time you're trying to embody the whole, integration is at every point, and at every point you're trying to integrate, and at every point you're trying to be here and be present, so and then you're like, okay, I got it. Okay, let's jump off. Let's go off the next waterfall. Right?
It's a really interesting perspective. I mean, Joe and I have a course on self-care and integration, and the people that we interviewed, I don't think we've touched on a perspective like that. So that's really interesting. Thank you.
Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah.
An analogy came up for me of when you're talking about waves, think surfing. You've got a huge ocean there, and you've got a shore, really grounded on the shore, but you can get beat up even a foot into the water. But if you're a surfer, you have to find that sweet spot in the water, and you're hanging out, waiting for that wave and riding it into the shore. You go out too far.
And I think that's why it calls to us. That's why the surfing calls to us. And that's why being a surfer calls to us. And that's why being a jiu-jitsu player calls to us, or smoking some weed, or any of these things that like throw us off the waterfall and then make us kind of catch our bearing while we're swimming, you know, because we're always trying to make sense of the chaos, you know. And the second that we do make sense of it, we're like, now it's getting boring. And so now I need a little more chaos, you know, because that's the thing. Like, you know, you're always thinking that you want perfect sense, but then once you get it, you're like, oh, damn, I did enjoy that chaos a little bit.
It's usually retrospective, right?
Yeah. But yeah, I think that's what pulls us to these sports and these activities in general, is when they mirror life in that way. And so, yeah, like surfing, and I always like the analogy of, like, you know, as a kid, I'd go tubing down the river, and man, I feel like that just exemplifies life like so well, like tubing down the river, you know, because sometimes it's nice and easy and there's a calm spot in the river and you're just going by easy, and then other times there's, you know, you're getting close to a waterfall and it's getting crazy and all you can focus on is just staying afloat in the moment, and then you go over the waterfall, you completely lose it, you don't know where you're at, and then boom, you come back out and you're trying to catch your bearing, and then wow, okay, it's a nice easy spot again in the river, and you're remembering how cool that last part was, and yeah, but you're still going downstream. Yeah, I like the tube going down the river analogy the best.
Did you ever bump into Jocko Willink in San Diego?
No, I have not personally. No, I've never met him personally.
All right, I'm gonna try to hit him up and talk to him about psychedelics, though. He is kind of terrifying. Yes. Former Navy SEAL, big jiu-jitsu guy, for those who don't know. And okay, so next, I would love to talk about music. Earlier, you mentioned music really kind of opened up for you. I imagine, like, the way I'm visualizing this is it was just background noise for you for a while, and then all of a sudden it just became substantially more enjoyable generally. Or what happened for you?
Yeah, you know, man, music is a fun one because I liked music just as much before. I always had an appreciation for it. I always, you know, I can't say that but it just took on a whole new color and a whole new feel and a whole new wave, you know, like, and so, yeah, so it allowed me to live in it, I guess, more. Like, before it was seen more to me as like I would constantly put it down and put it away as like this is just a distraction. Yes, I enjoy this, and sometimes it's nice, but ultimately, you know what? I think this music stuff, I think it's a distraction. I think it's better actually if I just keep the music off and I just stay on task and stay on topic, you know, logical, analytical. But when I could play more with flow and accept that more, then yeah, then music was, you know, music helped. It helped kind of set the scene. You know, it helped kind of give the vibe and create the story, and yeah, it really just yeah, it's hard to explain in that way because I want to give it merit in the sense that, like, you can enjoy music just fine without, and there's that side of it. But yeah, it opens you up in a certain way to just be able to live in it a little bit more, maybe. But no, you can live in it without too. It's interesting. But I mean, there's two big variables that happen, I think, too, as well. One was, yeah, sure, the weed, but two was the people I was around. The people I was around were also way more into music. Naturally, probably because of their weed proclivity, but yeah, like they were way more into music too, and we were playing it more at the gym. So we were constantly always playing it while we were rolling, and so that allowed me to really like get into it more too, because it was also the background for my rolling. And so it was like I was dancing to it more. I was able to accept more of this, like, okay, yeah, right, it's a dance. Okay, and you're listening to music now too while you're dancing. And so, yeah, it started to really color more of my perspective, I guess, music.
Do you have any tips for accessing flow? I'm just thinking if people are listening and maybe they feel stuck or maybe rigid in their life, maybe they don't have access to psychedelics or cannabis, but just this idea, I think a lot of sports is about flow. So do you have any tips on accessing flow states, or how to maybe let yourself go to experience flow a little bit easier?
Yeah. Okay. I think the way I like to think about it is I like to think that we're always juggling. You know, every topic, every variable that we're trying to hold on to is another ball. You know, so anything in your mind right now. You know, if you're on this podcast and you're talking, but you're also thinking about this thing that you got to do later on in the afternoon, or if you're really in this topic, then you're juggling the topic of psychedelics and jiu-jitsu and feel, and you know, you have these balls you're juggling, these variables, and you lose your place when you start to lose your juggle of them. And so it's the easiest to just start with just one ball, you know, just bring it back down to one ball, and like, if you've got one focus, then you're not juggling. You've got one topic, you've got one ball, that's not juggling. And so if you can, stay right there first. And the easiest way to get there, I feel like, is one way I like to think about it is in your exhale. All of your focus is in your exhale. If you just exhale and you drop more and more into that exhale, when you breathe in, that's when you lose yourself. Okay, exhale into it. And so, like, we're really calming down and really focusing with our exhale. And we're like, okay, what's the topic? What are we on? Oh, okay, now I'm focused. Now I've got it. Okay, now I'm holding just one ball. Okay, now I want to start moving. Now I want to start doing some more. I want to start holding some more balls. Okay, so I got to at least keep remembering this first ball. And then, okay, now let's start juggling a little bit. But, you know, it's, I think you're juggling. You're always juggling in that sense. So, like, just know that if you've got more than, you know, if you're trying to quote unquote multitask, well, then that's why you're kind of all over the place a little bit. And that's why you're not feeling flow. But if you're really juggling those balls well, if you want to juggle more than one, which is tough, if you want to do that, then you're going to have, that's what it is. You want flow, and you got to be able to juggle it. But it's easiest to flow when it's just one ball. That's why the surfer loves it. That's why the jiu-jitsu person loves it. That's why, in some ways, weed can offer that, because it just brings everything down to one ball. You know, yes, there's a million things also happening with that one ball, but at least for sure, you got to focus on the one. It gives you a one for sure you have to focus on, you know. And then the rest is letting go. The rest is acceptance, right? So if you have one ball you got to focus on, one main topic, then the rest is like acceptance, because the rest is the flow and kind of finding your way through it, you know? Yeah, I don't know. I like to try and talk about it a little bit like that, as like juggling, you know, like in these variables. Because you split yourself the second you have another topic or another variable or another anything, you know. And then the second you split yourself, now you're juggling two things, because maybe 80% of you is on this topic and 20% of you is on the other topic, you know. Maybe it's like that's really how it is. That's really how you split up your head, and then you can lose yourself in that way. And if you lose yourself, that means you just drop the balls, you know. And now you're looking at them on the floor and you're trying to pick them back up. And you're like, where was I? I guess, I don't know. Does that make any sense for explaining flow state? Flow state's a hard thing to explain.
It's a complicated thing. Some of our brightest minds are working on it, and it's still not 100% clear, right? But no, that's pretty
Yeah.
good. Like, I think starting with breath is always helpful.
Yeah. I was trying, did the exhale thing make sense? I'm trying, this is a good, like general rule is like your exhale, when you exhale, like that's your focus, you know, in general, exhaling, like just letting the air out, like that's how you focus in general on anything. And you let the breath in like build in the sense that it's the tension from the exhale that slowly pulls in the inhale, and only when you need it, and don't take too much because then you'll lose your topic. You know, like it starts right with the breath. Yeah, I found a lot. Recently I've been focusing a lot more on breath.
Yeah,
and that's really helping my jiu-jitsu and just everything in general. The more I understand about breath, I feel like the better attuned I am with myself and everything else.
It's such a cliche kind of thing, like focus on your breath or take a deep breath. But I mean, there's so much power there too once you learn how to start mastering that.
Yeah.
Or becoming aware of it.
Recently, I'm learning more about how it's just mainly about the exhale. I think we think so much about the inhale, but it's so much about the exhale. Yeah.
Well, the exhale seems for me about letting go, right? Like when you can really let yourself go with that exhale.
Yeah, but I think maybe that's a little bit of the switch in the sense though that try and focus on the exhale, you know, and try to let go a little bit with the breath, with the inhale, you know, in the sense that, okay, I'm exhaling. So what's the task? What am I focusing on? Like exhale is almost like you're going on a fast, right? Because the inhale is your food. And so if you look at it like eating, then if you make that exhale long and slow, like you're on like a 4-day fast, then you're really focused. You know, you need some food, and that makes you super focused. Like the most focused you'll ever be is when you're on a long fast, you know. And so, but then that makes you have a good relationship with hunger, and hunger is your need for the air, but you don't want to gulp it in too much because then you'll lose your place. You know, like you just eat too much and now you're just gone. You know? But yeah, I don't know. So I tried to flip that in my head and because yeah, I feel that too. Okay, I'm gonna just breathe out and just let go. But I'm trying to switch it now more to breathing out is like more of a focusing thing, whereas the breathing in that's letting go. Because breathing in is acceptance. Breathing in is I need some more air. I want to live. You know, so that's acceptance is the breathing in part, I think.
Right. Actually, as you're talking about that, I'm experimenting with it, and I'm realizing that as I'm inhaling, there's a little bit of like constriction or tightness, and I'm realizing, oh yeah, maybe it's the letting go. How do you feel a little bit looser in the inhale and accepting that? It's easier to focus on the exhale and let go because it seems like the process. But yeah, what is it like to relax and accept that inhale a little bit more? Thank you for that. It's really interesting to pay attention to.
Nice. Good. That's funny. I'm glad that translates already.
I did a really interesting form of physical therapy yesterday. First try. Postural Restoration Institute is what they go under. It's a lot of breathing and kind of pattern thinking as opposed to standard physical therapy, which is like strengthening and stretching, I guess. This is more about like patterns and movement, and it was really interesting to see like the differences in mobility and like how my rib cage was functioning after doing certain exercises. It's almost like it was exposing kind of underlying circuitry almost of like how if this happens, everything happens in the body in a certain way. I was like really kind of blown away by that, and thinking back to like jiu-jitsu, how you're really developing very new patterns and you can get really comfortable in those patterns. And it's kind of like, it's not always comfortable, right? Like you're going to get in some uncomfortable spots while you're rolling, which AKA doing jiu-jitsu.
Right.
But it's kind of like you're developing these patterns, and it's okay to be uncomfortable for a little bit. So therefore you're kind of developing these analogies for outside of or off the mat.
Yeah.
Like you're in a stressful work situation or car accident or whatever.
Outside of your comfort zone. Yeah.
Yeah. Like you're kind of okay for more extreme states, or like you're still breathing at least.
Okay, amongst the chaos. Yeah. Cause you have a good baseline. We're always trying to have, and that's what we were talking about with integration, embodiment, and everything is the baseline. But yeah, the posture, that's a big thing. Like that's like with each of these practices that I start and each of them that I try and work on, the farther I get down the line with them, the more it helps everything else. So like, let's say I started with breathing, breathing. Okay. Then that makes me work on all my posture. That makes me work on how my spine's lined, how my diaphragm works, and as that really changes and integrates, that kind of helps my jiu-jitsu posture, and that really changes my meditation. And yeah, it's all, and then what are we talking about there? We're talking about embodiment, because we're talking about our body, and so yeah, we're trying to bring this all forward. There's so much, we're trying to bring it forward into the body, and present and through the mind, and so you got to work with these things. You got to work with your breathing. You got to work with meditation. You got to work with your posture. You're in a body, you are in a body. And so you've got to work through that body. You can't just be a mind. And I think that's what we kind of are feeling culturally and as a time and as a people is we really sold out to logic. We really sold out to our mind, to our head. And now we're figuring out, oh shit, we're going to have to still live in this body. We better get used to it again.
There's a trend in psychedelics to start calling it body, mind, body as like a single word. Like you can't just talk about your mind and you can't just talk about your body. It's like, it's a unified thing, but we can feel as though we're abstracted, and we're not totally abstracted from our body, but we need to grow into the whole thing. Like, how do we live in this thing more fully, more completely?
Yeah.
And it's a trick. There's a lot of methods. It takes a lot of effort and time, but it's something that's worth doing, I think.
Yeah. Oh, well, that's what we're doing now. Yeah. It's what we're always doing. It's all we got to do.
That's a good way of putting it. It makes it really simple. So Ben, we usually wrap at about an hour, and we're at about an hour. I'm wondering if there's anything you want to kind of make sure people know about you or your work, or how to find you.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I got a big jiu-jitsu match coming up May 26th. Combat Jiu-Jitsu Worlds. It's 135 pounds. There's going to be 16 of us. So there'll be four matches to make it to the end. And with this one, we actually do slaps, like kind of palm strikes. So it's jiu-jitsu, but we allow palm strikes. Really, jiu-jitsu ends up winning out in the end, but the palm strikes are just kind of another layer of like, hey, you got to move now. You got to care about range. And so it's kind of an interesting side of jiu-jitsu. We're just now feeling out. Eddy Bravo is pushing it. And he really likes, we're all starting to really like this perspective of jiu-jitsu with just some strike, like hey, you got to go, like some urgency and some need for the clinch. And so, yeah, we're going to have our match at the end of this month, May 26th. It's going to be on UFC Fight Pass. And then, you can follow me at Ben Eddy 10P. You can find me on YouTube. You can find me in the real world.
Where are you? Are you going to be in Europe for a while teaching, or are you coming?
No, I got to get back. Yeah, I got to get back to the States for this combat jiu-jitsu match. And then after that, I'll see where things take me. Really, at this point, I'm just kind of going with the flow.
Great. And where is the match physically?
It's in LA.
Great.
In LA. Yeah.
People in LA could buy tickets?
Yes.
Cool.
Yes. It's an open event. You can buy tickets if you're in LA. It's also going to be on UFC Fight Pass, so that's super easy to get onto. They have like a free trial, or it's like $7 a month. But
cool.
Yeah. Yeah. And as far as everything else goes, it's like, when we talk about this stuff, man, you can you don't need it. You don't need it, or you don't have to have anything. These are all just variables you can play with on your way to understanding. And that's where we're always trying to get to, is understanding. So there's many paths and there's many ways, but ultimately, you're sitting in a body. and so, yeah, you got to make use of that.
Wise words. Thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you very much. So, Ben Eddy, thanks for joining us, and we hope to have you on in the future again, and catch up in a few months or years, or just see where you're at. It'd be really fun.
Yes, let's do this again. Thanks, guys.
And there you have it, Ben Eddy with 10th Planet Jiu Jitsu. I hope you enjoyed it. Let us know what you think. We always love to hear your thoughts on our work. So hit us up via email or on Facebook or Twitter or Instagram, or whatever. Psychedelics Today email at gmail.com is our address there. We really want to hear what you have to say. I think there was some valuable stuff in there, and maybe you had some thoughts. Maybe you had a reaction to us having a fighter on the show. Let us know what you think about that. We'd really love to hear about it. And as always, if you want to support us, leave us a review on iTunes or Facebook. If you want to dig deeper into the psychedelic education world, we have an amazing course, Navigating Psychedelics, that you should definitely dig into. It is applicable to anybody from the college student or high school student to all sorts of other applications like doctors, nurses, etc. We're actually live teaching a bunch of clinicians, therapists, and doctors right now, which has been a really amazing experience. And you're going to see more live learning opportunities and our curriculum really grow. So stay tuned. Make sure you're on our email list, psychedelicstoday.com. And thank you all for listening. Take care out there. Be safe. Joe Moore, signing off. Bye.